Today you're going to learn how to brew a large boba shop size batch of black tea. That looks beautiful. A really, really dark brown amber sort of color.
Guys, I'm Kristen, the bubble tea queen, and welcome to my channel.
For this video, I will be putting all of the conversions in the description below. This will include the large batch, medium, small, and also individual size, just in case you want to make one drink at a time. I've owned successful, award-winning bubble tea shops for many years, and in this video, you're going to learn how to brew tea. Majority of bubble tea shops will offer green tea or black tea for their customers to choose from. So in this video today, we are going to make black. This is a large hot water urn, and these are tea urns. Every day we brew 2 full batches of tea to fill up the entire thing. And by the end of the day, majority of it is gone. It's important with bubble tea shops to brew fresh tea every day because believe me, there is a difference in flavor. And that's why with all of my drink recipes, we start off with hot water first and then add the tea. Because by the end of the day, it might have cooled off a lot to the point where the ingredients just won't mix well with just the tea. It's not going to be warm enough to do that at that point. And at the end of the day, you always want to make sure to throw away the old tea and take your water and clean out the inside of this container really, really well. That not only helps with preventing any tea buildup or grime on the inside, but also that way the next day when you go ahead and you put fresh new tea in there, you're not carrying any of the old tea into the new tea. Preferably at the end of each night, after they're completely cleaned out, we actually turn them over so then that way any old tea or water will drain out and the whole entire unit will dry overnight. All right, so this is the size bag that we get our tea in bubble tea shops. This one is 500 grams. Basically, you just open it up. It's got large pieces of loose leaf tea, and it's best to then store it in an airtight container. Now, however, we do tend to go through these bags quite often anyway, so it's not a huge deal, but just in case, we like to store them in airtight containers. That way, the tea will remain as fresh as possible. All right, so here is an open bag of black tea. I just want to pour it into this container so you can see exactly how it looks. Really nice and beautiful, large leaves, and it's loose leaf, of course. Smells really nice. The Assam tea is your basic black tea at a bubble tea shop. Another dark tea that is quite popular in bubble tea shops is a dark smoky oolong. That one's also very good. I personally love a dark smoky oolong tea. I think it's amazing, but there are some people who maybe don't like it in their milk tea. So that's why I always think going for a basic black tea like an Assam is a really good choice in a bubble tea shop. There's also other types of black teas available on the market, but just be careful because some of those do actually have flavoring in them. All right, so first things first, as soon as you arrive to your shop in the morning, you've got to turn on your hot water. It takes a while for the whole thing to heat up. So in order to brew our black tea, we want our temperature of the water to be 85 degrees Celsius and/or as hot as you can get it. On this water urn, basically I turn it all the way up, and then as soon as I start to hear it boil, then I go ahead and I turn it down a little bit, and that's when I position the water to go into the container. However, each water system is completely different, so just do what you need to do accordingly. While the water is heating, I'm going to go ahead and measure my tea leaves into a separate container. For this large batch, you're going to need 125 grams of black tea. So I've got my scale. I'm going to put the container on top and hit the tare button. I want to make sure that it's on 0 and grams. Okay, here we go. All right, there we are. That's a lot of tea leaves, I know, but it will make a lot of tea. All right, so the first part, of course, was weighing the tea, and that was in grams. And the second part is actually getting the water in terms of volume. We're going to be using liters and milliliters. But again, for both of those, I'm going to be putting the conversions down in the description below. All right, so for our black tea, we want 85 degrees Celsius or as hot as you can get it. So let's go ahead and pour it out and see where we're at. And I have my water-resistant thermometer here. I'm just gonna put that in and see where we're going. Yeah, so it's actually reading about 83 Celsius right now. But once we fill the entire thing with 5 liters, the temperature will be a little bit warmer actually, and then we'll be right on the money. So let's go ahead and fill this whole thing up to 5 liters. All right, let's see where we're at. Yeah, it's actually registering at 86 now, so that's fine. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and put our black tea into our 5 liters of 85 degrees Celsius hot water. Now we want to give it a really good stir. We need to make sure that all of the tea is combined with the water and it's floating around nicely, so then that way the tea can release all of its amazing flavors. Next, we're going to put a lid on top. This not only helps to keep all of the heat inside, but you know, we are at a shop, there's a lot going on, and the last thing we need is for anyone to bump into this and burn themselves, because believe me, this is very hot. And last but not least, you're going to set a timer for 10 minutes. Okay, so now it's time for us to pour out our tea. So there's a few items that you're going to need for this step. Of course, you will need your giant insulated tea urn. And then next you will need 2 of these giant restaurant grade metal sieves. The idea is that, of course, these are large loose leaf tea leaves and they shouldn't go through the first one. But if any of them do happen to go through the first one, that way the second one will catch them. Because as you know, at the end of the day, when the tea gets really low, sometimes the little bits will get into the customer's drink, and it's totally fine. They're healthy and you know, it doesn't really bother anybody, but it does tend to bother the customers. Let's just try to avoid that and make sure we strain out as much of the tea leaves as possible. So just go right there on top. The reason why I have a bin right next to it is because sometimes when you're pouring it in, some of it on this end will tend to fall on the ground. If you haven't mopped for the day yet, that's fine, you can just mop it up. But what I like to do is just have it right there. That way as I'm pouring it, if any of it does happen to fall, it just falls directly into the bin. Super easy, less cleanup. And then of course a spoon and just a little container that you can put it in right there. Okay. I like to give it one more stir before I pour it. Now, using gloves, because this is very, very hot, and the last thing you want is to scald your hands or your staff hands. So definitely, I recommend gloves. I'm going to grab the sides and pour it in. I'm going to scrape out all the last bit of that tea. And we're going to push down on it lightly with our spoon. This just extracts all of the last bit of juice that's left in the leaves. And very carefully put it in the bin. And again, the second one shouldn't have any large bits of tea, but it does have a few of the little ones that I was talking about that kind of end up at the very bottom of the tea urn. So we'll just put that there. And then right away, gonna pop the lid on. That way nothing will accidentally fall into it or no little bits of tea leaves will fall in there. And then I'm just going to wash everything off. Now, keep in mind, make sure that none of the tea gets into the sink because it will clog the drains. If you have any little bits that are left on the inside of that, that shouldn't make a huge deal. But just remember that it's not a few pieces going in today that's gonna clog the drain, but it's a few pieces every single day, 365 days a year, that will clog the drain. So definitely be careful about that. Okay, so that's about it. Now, just as a reminder, that is for a large batch of tea. And if you have a bubble tea shop, you're probably gonna be doing 2 of those every morning. Then we also have the medium and the small, and then of course the individual. And all of those are in the description below, along with all of the conversions. So the last thing to do is for us to try our tea. Let's see how it tastes. That looks beautiful. A really, really dark brown amber sort of color. It's not quite red. It's kind of, like I said, kind of an amber. If you think, Jurassic Park, where he finds the mosquito in the amber. It's literally that color. Smells really, really strong, has that dark, deep Assam sort of scent to it. Oh yeah. Oh, wow, that is really good. This is perfect for a milk tea as a base. Right? So we're not putting, 200, 300, 400 milliliters of this in the beverage. Definitely not. That would be way too overpowering. This is just to accentuate the drink itself. So if we're doing like a classic milk tea or we're doing a mango milk tea, we're only putting in about 100 to 150 milliliters of that. And then of course we're diluting it with the ice, which then melts down. If you don't know what I'm talking about, be sure to check out my other recipes, which I'll also link below. But just remember that this is used as a base. It's not used as the full volume of the beverage. That's why we're going for a really, really concentrated version of this. It's just there to accentuate the flavor of the drink and to really bring out all of the different elements. When you drink it, you kind of feel it towards the front and sort of in the middle of your tongue. By the time it gets to the back, you don't really notice it. There's a lingering aftertaste. There's kind of a boldness and a richness that lingers afterwards, which is really interesting. And that's exactly what we want to give our customers. We want to give them a taste experience that they can't get from anywhere else. And this is the way to do that. Well guys, thanks so much for joining me today as I made this delicious Assam Black Tea for a large size at a boba shop. I'm so excited that you guys joined me. Please feel free to leave a comment below, click that like button, and if you haven't already, feel free to subscribe. I bring you a brand new drink video every week, including fun things like this about how to make tea. See you soon.